Quantibit happens, where we store knowledge faster than your old hard drive stores files.
Today we are diving into a digital duel of proportions, SSD versus HDD. One is old, one is fast, both are essential. But which one deserves a spot in your system?
That's right. Grab your bytes, burst your bits. It's SSD versus HDD time.
It's time to talk about the original master of data storage, the hard disk drive, or HDD. Born in the 1950s, it was about the size of a fridge and held just a few megabytes. Fast forward to today, and HDDs are still kicking, storing terabytes in a slim plastic shell. So, what's inside? Imagine a stack of round disks, called platters, spinning at up to 7,000 revolutions per minute. Then there's a tiny mechanical arm that moves across them to read and write data. Sounds familiar? Yeah, it's basically a record player for your files. But because it relies on physical movement, it's slow. Not dial-up slow, but definitely I have time to make coffee slow, especially when compared to SSDs. HDDs are great when you need lots of space for cheap. Think movie collectors, data hoarders, or backup drives. For example, a 2 terabyte HDD can cost less than half of a 1 terabyte SSD. That's like choosing between a backpack full of snacks and one fancy chocolate. Still, there are trade-offs. They consume more power, make more noise, well, click count sound, and they don't handle drops very well. I mean, would you survive being thrown off a desk spinning at 7,000 RPM? I wouldn't. In summary, affordable, high capacity, widely available, but slower speeds, mechanical failures, noise, less durability. If HDDs were a character in a movie, they would be the wise old mentor, slow, experienced, and dependable.
Let's look at what is happening inside the structure of the HDD. As you can see, this is an HDD and there is a rotating part inside. Right here, we have a motor that spins the disk. There is also a right read head positions at the top, which moves to perform data reading and writing operations on the disk surface. This particular HDD is a 2.5-inch model, which is typically used in laptops. However, it can also be used in desktop systems, as the input-output connections are basically the same. Take a look here. Both drives have SATA interfaces. This port is used for data transfer, while the agent port provides power to the device. Some drives may have additional power connectors as well. Now, notice the size difference. This smaller one is the 2.5-inch model, and the larger one is 3.5 inches. Technically, they work the same way, but the 2.5-inch version is designed to fit inside smaller devices like laptops. As technology evolved, components became smaller and more compact. Let's now take a look at the internal structure of an HDD. This version here has the cover removed so you can see the internal mechanisms. Electricity is required to power the motor that spins the disk. And right here, the read-write head is what actually reads data from or writes data to the disk. These components are very sensitive, so once you have installed the HDD into your computer, you should avoid moving or shaking. It's like a CD, and HDD contains a spinning platter inside. At the center, there is a spindle that holds and rotates the platter. Data is read from and written to the surface of this platter. Usually, there is only one platter in a standard HDD. The read-write arm can malfunction over time. In such cases, it may need to replace because it can occasionally suffer from head crash errors, which may cause strange noises coming from the device. These sounds often indicate that the motor is not functionally properly. Right now, we can see the internal structure. It's clean and shiny, almost like a mirror. Inside the HDD, there is a strong magnet. For example, as you can see here, This is a magnet capable of attracting metal components. There is also a specific section responsible for connecting the drive to the motherboard. Overall, this is what the internal structure of an HDD looks like. Now, let's take a look at a smaller HDD. From this side, you can see that this model contains 3 platters. Why 3? Because the individual platters are smaller in size, so additional platters are added to increase storage capacity. Each platter has its own separate read-write head. In contrast, the larger HDD only has one platter. Since it has a much wider surface area, a single platter can hold more data. In fact, its surface area could be about 3 times larger than that of a smaller one. In summary, smaller HDDs and larger HDDs contain the same essential components. The difference lies mainly in size and some hardware adjustments. So, when you open up an HDD, this is what you will typically see inside.
Thank you, Begum. Now let's jump into the superhero of modern storage, solid static drive, which means SSDs. It's sleek, it's silent, and it doesn't spin any. Think of it like the tech equivalence of going from a horse-drawn carriage of a Tesla. Okay, let's jump inside the SSDs. Inside an SSDs, there are no moving parts. Instead, data is stored in a NAND flash memory. It's kind of like your USB sticks, but much faster and also much smarter. It uses electric charge for store data in memory cells. And also, these come in the different types: SLC, MLC, TLC, and QLC, standing for how many bits each part of each cell can hold. More bits means more storage, but slightly less performance and less durability. SSDs are blazingly fast. A typical ACTA SSD can read almost like 500 megabytes, while NVMe's and SDS connected via PCL lanes can go beyond like 7,000 megabytes. That means your operating system boot in a second, not minutes. Applications can open instantly, no spinning, no noises. There are also more power efficient, produce less, heat and are more resistance shocks. You can literally drop your laptop on your SSDs, will shock it off a slack. That's all you got. What about weaknesses? Well, SSDs are still more expensive for per gigabyte, but and since NAND cells have limited write cycles, they can be read, but don't panic. Modern SSDs come with intelligent controllers and we're leveling algorithms that speed out data writes and extend their lives. Okay, in summary, there are some pros and cons about SSDs. What is that? Pros are fast, quiet, durable, energy efficient, and also cons are more expensive, limited write endurance, etc. If SSD were a person, they would be the friend who always on time, doesn't complain, and gets the job done before you even finish explaining it. But it is worth paying for that friend? Let's find out with Utku.
Before diving into Utku's amazing facts, let's take a closer look at how an SSD actually works. Smartphones can store 128 gigabytes, and this solid-state drive can store 1 terabyte of data, and it all happens inside this microchip right here. If this 1 terabyte solid-state drive were full of movies and TV shows, it will take about 3 weeks of non-stop binging to watch them all. So how can this incredibly small microchip fit such an insane amount of content? To understand them, we have got to zoom into the monoscopic view of the insides. In here, we can see an individual memory cell called charge trap flash. This memory cell stores 3 bits of information by trapping different levels of electrons on a charge trap. Very few extra electrons are 111, while a lot of electrons are 000. The other levels of trapped electrons have other 3-bit designations. Measuring this value doesn't change the amount of electrons, and once electrons are placed on the charge trap, they stay trapped there for years. However, when the memory cell is erased, the electrons are forcibly removed. To reach a terabyte of storage capacity in a single chip, this memory cell is copied, and it's copied a lot. First, these memory cells are stacked 100 layers tall. Then these stacks of cells are copied 40,000 columns, and which is then copied 50,000 rows down. You can kind of think of it's a 3D Excel spreadsheet where the values can only be 0 to 7. And this spreadsheet has 40,000 columns by 50,000 rows. And then there are 100 different spreadsheets taken layers, one on top of another. In order to isolate and determine which row and layer to write or read from, control gate selectors are used along layers and bit line selectors are used along the rows. We're going to zoom out to a view that we had earlier where we can see the overall microchip. Here is the 3D array of charge, trap, flash cells, and control gates that we will look at. This is a massive layout of memory cell, but engineers didn't stop. In order to fit more capacity, they copied this layout onto the other side, and then copied it 8 times again, and crammed it all into the single microchip.
Thanks, Sandra. Let's put these two in the ring and see who survives in the final round. Round 1, speed. HDDs average around 100 megabytes. SSDs are 500 megabyte to 7000 megabyte per second. That's like comparing a horse cart to bullet train. SSD wins. Round 2, durability. HDD, one drop and it might never spin again. SSDs, no moving part, so much safer. SSD wins. Round 3, price. HDDs are dirt cheap. 1 terabyte HDD might cost $30. SSDs are $50 or $100. If you are broke but need space, HDD wins. Round 4, storage capacity. HDDs offer 4 terabyte, 10 terabyte, even 20 terabyte. SSDs are catching up but still expensive at high capacities. HDD wins. Round 5, noise and power. HDDs click and spin. SSDs are silent. SSDs also use less power. SSDs win. So who wins? Well, it depends. Use on HDD for long-term backup, bulk storage, or when budget is tight. Use on SSD for your operating system, apps, games, etc. Or any task where speed matters. Most people today use both SSD and HDDs. That's the perfect combo, like coffee and cookie. Or CPU and GPU, or Sandra and Begum. In the end, SSD are the future. HDD aren't going to extinct anytime soon. Choose wisely, store smartly. We found a perfect demonstration of this. In a side-by-side boot testing using identical Windows 10 setups, one equipped with a traditional hard disk drive and the other with a solid-state drive. The difference was crystal clear. The SSD system booted in just 31 seconds. The HDD system took 1 minute and 40 seconds to reach the desktop. And no, the HDD wasn't broken. It was fully functional and tested beforehand. This dramatic speed difference shows how much of a performance upgrade an SSD can offer. Upgrading any laptop or desktop from HDD to SSD can boost startup and app performance by up to 10x, depending on your system. Moral of the story, if your PC takes longer to boot than your microwave takes to make popcorn, it's time for an SSD.
That's all for this episode of It Happens, where the only thing spinning is drama, not our drives.
Whether you are team spin or team speed, the real winner is knowing your storage option.
Thanks for tuning in. And may your files always load fast and your data never get corrupted.